Really excited today to be speaking to Garelochhead Support Trust, and the real theme of is looking at how peer research is uncovering the needs of veterans and their communities, and then how this can be used to shape meaningful change in healthcare policy and delivery. And it's an incredibly collaborative project because you can see how many people are involved, and how much banter there already is put in this conversation. So I'm really excited to hear that. And having had a chance to go to Garelochhead, to come to the brunches and meet folks in person, yeah, I can only speak to a lot of the joy that this project has brought and how useful research has been. I should also say this research and this project was funded by the Ideas Fund, which supports community-led research led by communities, and certainly supports our network as well. And very briefly, in terms of the network, Community Knowledge Matters is open to everybody. So if you are joining us or watching and you're not part of the network yet, you're very welcome to join. Historically, it was Highlands and Islands, but now we support broader, with a focus on rural and island Scotland, but we welcome folks from everywhere. And we connect with online sessions and community practices. We have our forum, and of course, we have these types of spaces very regularly. We build capacity and resources, and we advocate as well. And we're really keen about how not just to support community-led research, but how that can be leveraged to make a difference in policy, in practice as well. And then finally, just we have some dates for your diary. So the next community practices that are open to everyone, we have them every month. So the next one's in October. We also have our gathering coming up in Inverness on the 11th of November. And so for anyone who's interested, you're still very welcome to join us. And we are going to have some community spotlights that will be live streamed as well. So even if you can't join us in person, you'll be very welcome to hear from Open Shetland, who will be talking about the youth-led research, and Mental Wealth for Moray, which is a community research network doing really exciting work in Moray, of course, as well. And then our next conversation station on the 10th of December with Equal Adventure too. So
I'm Morevain, Project Coordinator, Garelochhead Support Trust.
I'm Marion, also the Support Trust, and I run the raffle and run about.
And I'm David. I just look after everybody, but in actual fact, I'm the treasurer, so I have a smile on my face when I'm counting money.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We're also joined by Sarah and Munoz as well.
Hi everyone, good to see you. I'm a researcher by background, and I've been involved with the project with GST from the outset, so I'm really happy to be here and share some of the work with you all today. Thanks.
We're also joined by Stacey.
Hello, I'm Stacey. I was the peer-led engagement lead on this project, and I'm from Dumfries and Galloway.
Good to have you here. And then finally, I've just lost you, but we have Kari.
Hi, I'm Kari Magee. I work for the Armed Forces Champion at NHS Highland, and I was looking at how we could develop our findings into policy and practice.
Amazing. Great to have you all here. Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit. So we're going to go to Morevain, who is well, there's a lot of heart in Garelochhead Station Trust, but you are certainly one of the drivers in all this and supporting all this incredible activity. Tell us who Garelochhead Support Trust are, and I guess why, from your perspective, it's important to be supporting the voices of veterans.
Okay, just a bit of background and history. Garelochhead Station Trust became a charity in 2018 when a group of veterans and their spouses recognised that there was no service delivery no opportunities for social interaction amongst veterans, their spouses, and members of the wider community locally. At the request of the members in 2024, we then became Garelochhead Support Trust. Since 2018, when we started in a little basement office and a small hall, we've now expanded to over 200 members and have had to move to larger premises. as a small local organisation, the sharing of skills and social opportunities for the benefits of the community, not just the members, but other local charities, it's been one of the big achievements of GST since we started. We strive to enhance the lives of veterans and their families and value the contribution that veterans make to the local community. The beneficiaries of military veterans, their families, and members of the wider community who all live in an area of high deprivation as identified in the SIMD. Most, but not all of our members are over the age of 65 and on fixed income. Some have lost partners and living alone. Others are supporting partners through illness. Some are dealing with illness themselves. This was best illustrated when one member at a brunch that Lewis has also attended was asked by a visiting partner organisation why she came to GST. Her answer was, "I've been recently widowed, and with the help and support I've received from GST, I'd now be sat at home on my own, waiting to join my husband." This member has received a variety of means of support, not just attending the brunch, but also accessing GP and hospital appointments. Because she doesn't drive, we'd arranged for transport to collect her shopping because she is more really isolated. But this lady has now built a whole supportive network who takes her out socially, and she is engaged in a number of other things within the local community. And I think that is the best illustration of what GST achieves. As far as the peer research is concerned, we have carried out a comprehensive peer review of service delivery, and to be able to do this, we have engaged with our trustees, with the peer researchers, and with external organisations. Our trustees presented their interim findings last year to the professional researchers at the University Summer School, and all received positive positive feedback.
Thank you, Morevain. And I think having seen, from the very beginning of the pairing of the connection you had with Sarah Ann and seeing how it's evolved and the impact it's making has been incredible. Yeah, as I said, having been to the brunches and knowing how important these things are is really critical. So we're going to get into some of the detail of that a little bit later. But I did want to come back to Sarah Ann, as the Ideas Fund was always about connecting communities who had a research idea. They got the funding, so they were leading and had support to then connect in with research. And you were that initial matched researcher. So perhaps tell us a wee bit more about how you've been involved and how you've seen it maybe evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great journey, I would say, over several years now working with GST. So as you say, Lewis, at the beginning, we were paired really through the Ideas Fund process and the associated funding that went to GST. I was within academia at the time, so based within University of the Highlands and Islands, and we carried out the first project really collaboratively. And everyone's going to go for a brunch, because I'm going to say it was also wonderful to come to the brunches at GST and to meet folk and really to together kind of build the confidence, I think, to carry out the peer research, and then to see that move through to fruition's been really exciting and useful. And then myself, about 18 months ago, moved into a research and evaluation position that sits within the NHS. So has been a change, and I guess a bit of a journey for me as well. But it's been wonderful then to start thinking about how can this type of evidence that we'll talk about today actually really inform practice and connections between the type of organisation that GST represents and the statutory sector, particularly within health and social care. So I think the great thing for me is that I've been able to support peer researchers within NHS and within the universities to frame the research questions that we've looked at. We've worked through things like ethical processes, and we've thought really hard, I think, about how the peer researchers can drive the process and be really involved at every stage. It's that they're not just involved in consultation, they're very much part of the project that we've done. They've really shaped, I would say, kind of the questions we've asked, but also how we've asked those questions, and then laterally how we're interpreting the results. So you'll hear a bit later from Stacey and Kari, who are also within the NHS, and it's been a real pleasure to support them over the latter stages of the project in terms of the research that we've been doing as well. And yeah, bridging, I guess, those kind of multiple worlds, if you like, between research and practice and the community. So I think what we've done is I would say it's been really rigorous. It's been a rigorous process, but it's always stayed really grounded in that experience and lived reality that Morevain's touched on so far. So yeah, it's been a fantastic project to be part of.
Thanks, Erin. We're definitely going to get into some of that detail as well. But we have a video, and I think today is actually a bit of a launch and premiere of this video. Even I've not seen it yet, so I'm very excited. I know Dave and Marion have been getting autographs, I've heard already. So Erin, tell us a wee bit about what the video is, and I'll get ready to play it.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that has stood out for all of us is the amount of knowledge, the amount of stories that we've been able to engage with and collect in terms of through the peer research, and just seeing the members of GST speak to each other and use that as a way to gather and generate information. So one of the pieces of work that we've done together is to film some of those peer interviews, and this film just illustrates, I think, a few of the key points that have come out from the work. There are many more, but this is a kind of first cut of some of that, just to give you an illustration today.
And we joked when we were kids that we weren't children, we were ABs. Because Dad would come home from sea and we used to have bedroom inspections and things like that.
Adapting to civilian life, I think, more than anything else. You missed all your mates. The camaraderie, I think, was a big thing.
Yeah. It's given me a planning purpose. I plan my social life now.
Oh, good.
And one of the main events of my social life is every fortnight come in here on Tuesday to meet and have all the banter with the pals and all the ex-servicemen there, and good food too.
A lot of veterans out there don't realise what's out there for them.
And they've found within GST, trustees and staff aside, they've found their new support network. But I think that needs to be in other services, that needs to be recognised, that this is something quite significant, and somebody's self-esteem being reduced for whatever reason has an impact on so many different other areas. Groups like ours, getting them together with like-minded people, because the military speak a different language. They don't speak the same language in civilian circles, and I think that makes a connection really difficult when you speak two different languages.
If you could change one thing about the way services support veterans and their families, what would it be?
I think they need to do interviews like this. I think they need to gain an understanding of what it is to be a veteran, what it is to be a veteran's family, As a spouse of a serving personnel, it's really, really lonely. And that loneliness doesn't always necessarily go away when they come home, because as I've said, they go into jobs that take them away because that's the life they're used to. And I think mental health wise, that can be really difficult, especially if you're raising a young family. But I also think that needs to be appreciated for how difficult that is for the veteran as well. For them to suddenly be thrown into everyday family life. They've never done that before. Being in the forces, they haven't had to make their own doctor's appointments, they haven't had to make their own dentist appointments. You've gone from being a serving military person to somebody that doesn't have a clue how to make their own doctor's appointment. That's really, really going to take a knock to their self-esteem and to their capabilities and make them feel inadequate. And I think services need to understand that, alongside all of the other issues, PTSDs and things like that that veterans struggle with. That suddenly feeling inadequate, I think, needs to be recognised.
I feel very strongly about the Veterans Covenant. I think that the NHS are not enforcing it enough, and they're not acting upon it enough. There's not enough training being done. If you speak to many NHS people, which I do, because I work alongside OT, I work alongside social work, they don't know about it. They haven't a clue about the Veterans Covenant or the ethos of it or what it's about, and therefore how can it be enforced if the NHS staff are not aware of what it's meant to be doing for veterans? So I think more education is needed with that, and I think more communication and engagement between welfare people like ourselves and yourselves, more meetings, about how we can improve the situation together, and that's not happening.
I think the GST has been absolutely brilliant. I haven't needed a lot of support, but all the friendship, being able to help people sometimes, and I really appreciate it tremendously.
I guess a little viewing, of course. Thank you for sharing that, and hopefully, gives you a little bit of a flavour, maybe some of the themes that have come up. But I'm going to come to Dave Marion, who's been waiting very, very patiently. Dave, we obviously saw you in there, and tell us a bit more about your experiences of being involved as a peer researcher.
Well, I'll start.
You can start, maybe.
Can I start first?
You do, yeah, of course.
Yeah, just to say how I get involved with the peer researching. Morevain came to us, David and I and other trustees, to say, would you like to take part in this? And of course I was very interested. I thought, what's this, something new skill that possibly I could learn at my age? And I thought that might sound fun. So we came along, we met Sarah Ann, and we did a couple of courses over a few weeks here. And then after we did that, it came up that somebody needed someone to go to Inverness College to go up and try it for four nights. And I thought, well, I've never been to college. So I thought that would be an opportunity for myself and David to take that. So we said we would like to do it, and Morevain as well, with her backing. And the three of us trotted up there. And it was quite an eye-opener, actually. The rooms are very small, and I thought, how do the students manage? But anyway, it was lovely. We really enjoyed it. Went the course. It was more than I expected. It was absolutely brilliant. Met so many different people, different walks of life. The experience was phenomenal for myself personally, and I came away thinking, I like this idea. So I think I'll continue with it, and that's what I've done.
Oh, amazing, Marion. I can see the enthusiasm in there. Dave, how's it been for you?
Yes, well, briefly, my history is I did 30 years in the Royal Navy, and I was one of the lucky ones that never really had a severe incident at all. Although obviously I can't tell you where I went; otherwise I'd have to get rid of you. But it was interesting to find this the Garelochhead Station Trust as it was then, and the peer researching, because what it basically taught me to do is to speak back in a language that all military people have, and to use that language to actually break down the barriers that military people have when they leave the services. It's something that people don't realize, is that when a military person who, as Melody said in the interview, their medical appointments are all made for them, their dentist is all made for them, they have to do nothing. When they leave, they have to do everything. And this, of course, is something that we were not used to. So then to find somewhere like the Garelochhead Support Trust as it is now, and actually speak to people in a language that you know, seems to break down the barriers. This was all taught to me by doing the peer research, which obviously, as Marion said, up in Inverness. It was a superb get together of people of all walks of life, and we met a lot of people, and I would love to meet up with them again. But that actually did Marion and myself a lot of good about learning how to talk to people, not just to the military people, but how to talk to people in general, which is something we've learned, and we thoroughly enjoy doing what we do to the people that we've got working with us and using us for different benefits and such like. And we do, as you saw also in the interview, we have our welfare rep, Eileen. She does an exceptional job, but all of the trustees do an exceptional job, and the office staff, and anybody who has a problem. People like.
They've been listened to.
Yeah, listening to. People, I'm not saying that when you go and see a doctor or something like that, they don't actually listen to you. They're very busy people. When people come here and talk to us, we have all the time in the world for them, because that's what we're doing. It's our giving back to what we've done.
So maybe just to build on that, I mean, one of the things is like, how has peer research been useful for you? And I think you've kind of shared a little bit, but I'm also just interested in how, I guess, peer research has been useful in terms of the community and understanding needs and the connections.
It has. The peer research basically tells us what to investigate and to find out in a way. So that's what we're doing.
I think what the peer research has done has given the peer researchers the opportunity to use their military skills, that empathy, and it's. Peer research is people with the same lived experience talking to each other. And that has been the strength in this whole project, that everybody understands that you've got a shared lived experience. And that has been really valuable in the members feeling listened to, valued, and their opinion appreciated. It's not trying to talk to somebody that hasn't got the same lived experience as yourself. And that has been really powerful. And it has meant that the feedback we have received from members has been honest. They're not saying what they think you want to hear. That feedback has been heartfelt and honest.
Thanks. Thank you all. I think that's what's really interesting about that is again, almost like I think sometimes we feel like peer research is a really useful tool for lots of different things, but actually I think what your example and when we've talked before is actually the quality of what's come out is different, and that is, that's, it isn't just the right thing to do, it actually leads to better research, which I think is a really important thing to stress. I'm going to bring in Stacey, who is one of our practitioner research partners for this program as well. And I'm going to, I guess, come to you. You've obviously been working and supporting with the peer research, especially in this phase. What kind of questions have been asked, and what did you find?
So the engagement sessions were held at the Centre 81. We'd done some engagement sessions through the brunch events, and we'd done some in small group settings. And the intention was designed to be safe and in a calm environment. So it encouraged open, positive and fluent conversations, and it's allowing veterans to share their personal experiences and stories in a supportive atmosphere. So the questions aim to understand how engagement with the GST has influenced the participants, the members' health and wellbeing, their experiences and access to services, and their views on how services can better recognise and respond to their needs. Additionally, the questions explored how rural living shapes wellbeing, their access to care and the sense of community. So the key findings indicate that GST functions more than just a community organisation. It plays a vital role in connecting individuals to services, reduces isolation, fosters social connections, and providing effective signposting. Participants in the research constantly reported strong trust and relationships with the trustees, which created a safe and supportive environment for discussing personal challenges and barriers to accessing care. There was other barriers identified to access the services, and particularly during the transition from military to civilian life. They expressed the need for broader understanding of the unique challenges that are faced by the veterans, as well as increased education and awareness around the Armed Forces Covenant to ensure services are better equipped to meet their needs. Another key barrier identified was the complexity of applying for benefits and the lack of the awareness around entitlements. The forms are often lengthy and highly personal, and many individuals lack the necessary IT skills. While telephone appointments with citizens' advice or social security are available, they're not always practical for those with hearing or speech difficulties. And I think the nearest citizens' advice office was 2.5 hours away from Garelochhead. Trustees at GST actively support individuals with benefit applications, addressing challenges such as digital exclusion and complex paperwork. Another key issue raised was transport. Its limited public transport links make attending early hospital appointments difficult, and GST members have been providing informal transport support to help address this barrier. So there was a number of things that was risen, but the questions were designed to be able to identify these barriers and the positives as well.
Thanks, Stacey. And I think it was really nice. It'd be interesting actually just even briefly, like how has it worked in terms of that collaboration for you from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think GST is brilliant. When I went up there and everybody, they're amazing. And working alongside NES and along GST, it's been a really good experience for me, and I've learned a lot as well. I've loved every minute of being part of this project.
Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, I love how all these different parts interact and the bringing different these as a collaboration. And I think one thing that was always really important to GST moving to the second phase of the funding the project was actually how this can affect policy. And so I'm going to bring in Kari, and obviously everyone's been involved in that, but Kari, you get the I guess in terms of the findings, and you've been focusing a bit more maybe on how to move this to inform policy and practice. What does that look like?
It's been really interesting. So when I sat down and I originally started planning for what the end of the project would look like, my intent was to develop a single policy brief, something that was nice, neat, concise, and that actually as we started finding out more information, as we started collecting data, we started to identify that there were issues like the critical gap in the MOD and NHS communications plan around raising the awareness of the Armed Forces Covenant. And because of that, we decided that we would effectively create 2 policy briefs. The first one was going to highlight the importance of peer research, especially in remote and rural communities, and just how important trusted peer researchers can be to giving a voice to the people, especially those who are impacted most by policies that are often developed at a distance. The policy brief on the importance of peer research would also really try to emphasise how the nuances that peer researchers capture can really enhance how generic policies can be applied in a local area. So we were really quite passionate about making sure that we were turning the big picture that is driven by, public health data and all that type of stuff into a far more complete one by hearing local voices as well. The other policy brief was all about how we could provide guidance on how trusted peer researchers and community hubs such as the Garelochhead Support Trust could raise awareness about the Armed Forces Covenant throughout the Armed Forces and Veterans community, and by default, people like NHS staff. So we've already identified that the top-down communications plan has not worked. It's been 14 years since the Armed Forces Covenant was published, and almost 3 years since it was made a legislative duty, but it's still not very well known. It's not very well understood, and it's still not very well applied. So we're looking at a bottom-up word of mouth approach that might be more effective, and peer researchers would be key to that. We've also looked at how we could take it beyond just policy and make sure we're raising awareness far further. So we're looking at how we can deliver a brief to the next cross-party group on the Armed Forces and Veterans community. They get together every couple of months and bring across MSPs from Holyrood and the wider military third sector, as well as we're hoping to be allowed to brief at next year's NHS Education for Scotland's annual conference. We've also started to think about how we can turn stuff from policy and plans into practical practice, for want of a better word. And so we're looking at how we can explore the creation of a draft framework to support the employment of peer researchers, because it's always wonderful to know that peer research and peer researchers are really, really useful, that they're really, really important to making sure that Scotland-wide policies can turn into local practical application. But if you can't actually employ a peer researcher, if you can't get them within your area so that you can use them to find out more, to link in with the local community, to engage and find out all this stuff that David and Marion have done, if there's no practical framework to make that happen, you're still really quite stuck. It's important, but you just can't get the people in place to make stuff happen. So that was the final thing that we're starting to explore, creating a draft framework to support everyone to actually get peer researchers into everything that we do.
Thanks, Kari. Really exciting. And nodding internally, and some really clear next steps and already things that are in motion, which is brilliant. I'm going to bring back Sarah Ann as well. So we're going to start thinking about just what next very briefly before we go into Q&A. So for those of you listening, please do start thinking about your questions now as well. We're definitely going to have some time for that. But bringing Sarah Ann back in. Sarah Ann, I guess from your perspective, obviously now you're at the National Centre, looking at NHS research, education, evaluation. What, from this kind of more strategic perspective, are you hoping to happen next from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. I think I'll follow on, or try to follow on from what Kari was talking about as well. She laid it out really nicely there in terms of some of the policy influence that we're hoping for. I think the overall ethos, hopefully, that folk have been able to hear from the way that we've worked together, is something that we really want to carry forward in our work. So as the National Centre for Remote and Rural Health and Care, I would say that really ethical, trust-based research in rural communities is very important to us, and there's lots of learning from this project that we'll be able to take forward in relation to that. So very much, I think the kind of way that we've worked in partnership here, there's the potential really for that to become a framework, if you like, for how to work with communities and community organisations throughout remote and rural and island Scotland for us. So lessons really, I think, about that kind of genuine sharing of power and knowledge, and that's been between the NHS, the academic researchers that have been involved, and the peer researchers, and then the community organisation themselves. So I think we've talked a lot about the relationships that have been built. I think through the work, that it's been very clear. We probably something we all believed in previously anyway, but it's a really nice example of how you can't just kind of drop yourself into a rural community, collect data, and then hop on and not understand, I guess, the contextual situation of lived experience. I think it's been a really important reminder for us in that respect. And we'll look at the methods as well that we've used and developed through the project, and I think there's a lot of application for other remote and rural and island areas. So I think there's a strong case there, as Kari mentioned as well, for raising awareness really through education and training. So particularly for the health and social care workforce, and I think how we can design that education and training. We've learned a lot through the peer research about what kind of formats that might meaningfully take, and I think my aspiration is one as well that this type of peer research, this type of evidence can really become normalised and a very valued part of how the health system, I suppose, in a larger sense, learns and acts and builds evidence for change. So I think just quietly, if you like, trying to build that into a lot of day-to-day activity and pieces of research and service evaluation that are happening in different rural areas. But it's been a fantastic learning experience, and I think there's lots probably that we don't even anticipate just now that will help us move forward. So thanks.
Thanks, Ariane. And yeah, definitely. And obviously even be able to share like this, and hopefully you're sparking some new conversations and connections. We're going to come back to yourselves, David and Marion. What would you like to see happen next from your perspective?
We would like to see it to go further, because we think it's a very big, important project, and involve other veterans, any other people that want to come on board. Mm-hmm. We can all keep in touch and make sure that we get bigger and we get better and we get it done. That's how I feel.
I think it's very important for the talk to Sarah, Stacey and Kari to still have our meetings and our group discussions with them, because they keep feeding us with the information that we need to further this development and make it go much bigger than it's going to go, and help these poor guys and girls who are stuck and don't know what to do. So
we'd like GST to be seen as an example of good practice that could be replicated in other veterans projects, and not just veterans projects. This is a prime example of good information coming out of joint lived experiences, good personal stories that could actually influence strategic policy. Mm-hmm. And when people feel as though they're listened to, that's when good things happen.
Can I just come in, going back to the peer, to do this research up at the university? When we came back, everybody, all our members knew that David and I had been on this, and how it was a bit daunting for us, and they appreciated it, but it gave us more confidence to speak to them, because we felt, well, we're doing something important here as a trust to try and get for our veterans. And the amount of people that approached us for weeks after saying, that's really good you did that. And then they talk to you more because you've done something that was outside your comfort zone. And they asked you, what did you do? They said, you went to university and all these, but it brought them, I felt that it brought them out more to trust us. Is that the right word? I'm not sure if trust is the right word.
It was the empathy.
It was the empathy, and I felt more stronger myself for it. So.
No, that's beautifully put, and I think that's quite interesting, and we see that in a few other different projects about like how sometimes it's not even changing that much differently in terms of activity. It just frames it in a way that makes it feel more empowering about the voice and how you organize stuff. And yeah, I am going to open up to questions. Just I want to make sure that we've got plenty of time in there. So let's have a little look. Just to say a massive thank you once again to Dave, Marion, Morevain, Stacey, Sarah Ann, and Kari for being part of this conversation, and for everyone joining us. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll catch you online for the next ones. Cheery bye.